The media. It's everywhere. You can't escape it. Most of us are just a few clicks away from another terrible article or video. Because of this, digital media has exploded into a multi-billion-dollar industry. For a time, it seemed unstoppable, but bubbling just under the surface of this growth was something sinister. VICE has been seen as a pioneer of these practices for over a decade, constantly pushing the envelope of what they can monetize. They gained such a reputation that The Onion summarized their entire business model in 30 seconds. Posts all over the internet call them out. Various subreddits and countless journalists have been criticizing Vic for years. But believe it or not, there was a time when Vice wasn't just talking about different ways to smoke pot from an apple. The story of Vice is a warning, an example of how beautiful things can turn sour. It's the mid-90s. In 1994, Shane Smith, Sarosh Alvi, and Gavin McInnes start a media company, first called The Voice of Montreal, later renamed Vice. Their philosophy was simple: provide a definitive guide to an uncertain world. They covered the underground scene, politics, hookers, and drugs, not as concerned authority figures, but as enthusiastic consumers. And yet, Vice was struggling. They were begging skate shops to carry their free magazine and had to lie to advertisers about their viewership, hoping their audience would grow big enough before anyone found out. It was a huge risk, but it paid off. In 1999, they secured a $4 million investment, moved to New York, and went worldwide. As VICE's audience grew, they published articles and videos from young punk correspondents in global conflict zones, while mainstream media reported from the Hilton. VICE was becoming a real threat to traditional media. Over the next decade, they funded talented journalists and produced amazing content like Hamilton's Pharmacopoeia. But by 2008, creative differences were emerging. Co-founder Gavin McInnes left the company, stating that his split was about the increasing influence of corporate advertising. Soon after, insiders leaked that Vice was altering shots during editing. A 2011 documentary on Libya featured a voiceover from Shane Smith, claiming he was on the front lines, but insiders said he never even made the trip. Still, it didn't matter. VICE kept growing its enormous YouTube channel, and Shane regularly mocked traditional media companies as stodgy and uncreative. Things were going great, and media moguls noticed. In 2013, Rupert Murdoch invested $70 million. Shane Smith was quick to claim this wouldn't impact their content, saying, "We have maintained control." This is when Vice started getting a reputation for clickbaity, hollowed-out content. But that was just a taste of what was to come. By 2017, Shane was charming investors into a combined $1.4 billion investment, valuing the company at $5.7 billion. VICE seemed untouchable, or so it seemed. In 2017, Vice had a problem. They were getting a reputation for half-baked journalism, and despite bringing in hundreds of millions, they were still losing money. Something had to change. VICE was faced with a choice: go back to its roots of ballsy, gonzo journalism, or generate lazy, mass-produced content in a desperate attempt for clicks. I think we all know what Murdoch and Disney thought was best. So Vice continued to write article after article about having sex with bugs, anal sex, and drinking vaginal fluid, all while claiming to be a reputable news source. It became Shane Smith's nightmare, a stodgy, uncreative media company, a counterculture icon stripped of its originality. Shane stepped down as CEO, and Vice continued down the path of least resistance. They lost their primetime HBO show, and their average viewership struggled to compete with individual youth. The days of getting drunk in North Korean labor camps were over. VICE sold its soul for a crumb of approval from big conglomerates and failed to get even that. Disney and other shareholders later claimed their investments in Vice were completely worthless. So what makes Vice worse than other digital media companies? For many years, Vice was a force for change and progress. They traveled to the edges of the world and the terrifying peripheries of human consciousness. But today, Vice represents a generation pointlessly obsessing over cookie-cutter opinions and faux individuality. Vic had a chance to be a beacon of light, But now, that light has vanished. Thanks for watching.